some woman claims to have seen a trans woman. So she runs out into the office and is demanding from this general staff that there is a trans person showing their penis, flashing it to everyone. What are you going to do about it? And the manager at WeSpa is like, oh, well, they're allowed to change in there. That's the law. And then she throws a hissy fit about it. The video goes viral. And then now all of a sudden some people show up. So that trans person, they might not even exist. Like, it could be all outrage from the get-go. The likely scenario that I believe is that the trans person probably was real. They probably weren't flashing anyone. They were just changing like any other person. And now there's this whole thing that like, oh, if you're in a woman's only restroom, you can't see a penis. If you see a penis, then that's like child predator behavior is what they claim.
We're all predators.
Yeah, they think we're all predators.
It's
like,
so far from the truth.
we just want to use
we just want to be accepted.
the spaces that our gender identify with. You know, me and her, we use female spaces as well. You know, they try to make it a women's rights issue or like a heterophobic take that trans people should be allowed to have the spaces that their gender prefers. It's ridiculous. Their whole notion is complete outrage and unnecessary.
Yeah. Can any part of you understand like why somebody might feel uncomfortable with I guess that situation that we kind of outlined?
Well, yes, because they are ignorant to what's going on, and because they're
programmed.
Yeah.
Transphobia is brought up into society.
If you're
I heard
unwilling,
it growing up. I grew up in a conservative household.
Listen,
we all heard it.
Some women have dicks, and some chicks have vaginas. Or some dudes have vaginas. Excuse me. Some dudes have vaginas, and they just got to get over themselves. Honestly, I mean. Like, they don't even talk about trans men at all. All their complaints are about trans women in women's spaces. What about trans men in men's places? Where should they go? Should a big, buff, trans man walk into the woman's restroom because they have a vagina that no one can see? That doesn't make any sense. I would think that the woman would feel more uncomfortable with some big burly trans man walking into that restroom. They never consider both sides of the trans issue. They only focus on trans women because they just want someone to hate.
I got you. Let me ask you like one last quick question. What do you feel like the key steps to changing all of this thinking in society could be?
Gender neutral bathrooms.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think that would solve a lot of problems.
Inclusive education as well.
Inclusive education, transgender bathrooms,
representation in
neutral
media.
bathrooms.
And if you see someone saying something transphobic, then you need to speak out about it because it's not okay.
What kind of education did you say?
Well, it would be something like the difference between gender and sex. There are two distinguishable differences between what someone calls their biological sex and someone calls their gender identity. So your genitals don't matter for what gender you identify with. And the notion that if you were born male, you must die male is ridiculous. Or if you were born female, you must die female is ridiculous, because that's not how gender identity works. And if they had any education on the subject of the difference between gender and sex, they would know that. So the fact that they aren't willing to educate their children about how the world actually works is the reason why, because they're uncomfortable with teaching those things. They're uncomfortable with teaching, oh, trans people are real and that they exist and that their feelings are true. Like, there's plenty of science behind it about gender identity, and they just refuse to understand.
Where do you think the discomfort comes from?
The discomfort comes from heteronormative society that we live in, that doesn't see trans people as people. It's the next outrage since gay marriage took place. It's really upsetting, because that was only 13 years ago in 2008 when they were protesting gay marriage and they intended to ban it. But nowadays, they can't protest gay marriage. There's no way that they can get away with it. So now they're moving on to issues like transgender people.
Okay. Thank you guys so much. This was honestly like super fantastic. Thank you both.
I'm a good speaker.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys a lot.